Well, hello, everybody. My name is James.
And I'm Debra.
Welcome to Love and Life Elevated. And I'm really excited about this topic. I'm a little nervous, to be honest with you, because this is going to be a little talk about intimacy.
Oh, goodness.
Our relationship. And I think for a lot of people, particularly people in our community, we have a lot of folks who've been together for many years. And we've had some people who've moved in and out of love, divorces, the whole thing. I mean, you and I grew up in a product of a lot of broken marriages, didn't work out. And I wanted to share today's subject matter with you because I feel like what you and I have learned a lot about, we've learned a lot about overcoming. We've learned a lot about some of the things that allowed us to move through. The initial reflex to say this isn't going to work, this not working, and to deepen our trust. So I was reading some really interesting research on the power of memories that have given you the faith in present challenges by leaning back into the memories to allow you to say, this is worthy, or this gives me faith, this gives me a sense of hope. So I want to open up with, when you and I first met each other, and this is connected to some really interesting science about initial attraction.
Oh.
And so we're jumping right in. So when you think about initial attraction, I'm always going to kind of go back to, and I share this a lot with patients and people I coach, how we both had this ritual at meeting at Cascade 205 in Portland, Oregon at 5 a.m. when the gym opened. And so for me, the attraction was automatic. Number one, you're gorgeous, great smile. Who is alive like that at 5 in the morning but you? And I've used that a lot in our relationship to remind me about what was that I first noticed about you and how I can continually lean into that as a powerful belief in who you are as a person based on that ritual. So I want to ask you this question. What was it beyond, if there's anything beyond that initial experience of us pulling in next to each other in our cars and looking across and seeing each other in the front seats? Was there something that you saw beyond that, or was there anything there that was special for you that you've ever leaned back into that's helped us to move through any kind of thing in our marriage?
I think it was sort of like your unabashed openness and first of all, your smile, like your whole face you had a lot of light in your eyes, still do, and your smile and openness. Like there was never, you felt always like you're a very safe person to hold whatever it is I am being vulnerable, sharing, and that you were just always had this passion and compassion. So even, in those days, I would say maybe you're not bottling up, but like if you're having a bad day, no one knows it, right? Because you're just bringing forth your whole heart. You're there for people and you're present. And I think what I noticed is that whenever we would talk, you're just like present. And eye contact, it probably made me uncomfortable first.
like the close talker in Seinfeld.
It wasn't even a close talker. It was just like you're very intent. And the only reason why I'm not staring at you is I don't love my side profile. So it was the real connection. So it wasn't like when I walked into the gym, you're just like, hey. You're like doing the bro nod, right? You're like big smile, eye contact. And when why is asking someone how they're doing controversial these days?
I know, right?
Like we're not allowed to say how are you because it's too low of a question. But like you really care, you really wanted to know. Yeah,
I think that's the key, right? You can say how are you as long as you actually are wondering and caring how they are.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm opening that question, and I really want, and I know not everyone's in relationship. I do believe that you have been, you want to be, or you are. And I hope that's the way it is for most people. I know it's not an absolute. So I just want to qualify that. But the reason I'm sharing this is because I read a fascinating study on how when we're going through shaky times, or when we're in a place where we're just kind of wondering, is this my person? Or, you're kind of closing down, or your partner's closing down. What is one of the best things that we can do to resurrect connection and love and trust and all the things that relationships need. And the study was really all about holding an initial attraction that wasn't just physical. Very key distinction. Physical stuff comes and goes, right? But this is something that beyond the physical, what was it that allowed you to kind of keep the relationship moving forward, to give you the relationship that you experienced? So I want to really kind of bring that back to you right now, honey, because you and I, and we've been very open about this, we had some early year challenges. We were in school. We were financially struggling. We had so much stress. And we were working crappy jobs to finance medical school and not doing it to the degree we would love to have. But I think about those times, and I think about what it is, and we've been through different iterations in our life where we've met with different challenges, and I've returned so often to the gym in those mornings, and I've also returned to times when I know, and this is a real hard one to talk about, and I think it was when your dad passed away, and how it was a sudden, catastrophic heart attack. And he was here and all of a sudden he wasn't. And I remember that night in particular, and I use this a lot when I think about you and how much I love you. You cried that entire night. We found out like right after one of our shifts at the clinic, and Deb and I crawled into bed 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever it was, and you cried all night long. And it gave me an understanding of the depth of how much you care and how much family means to you. And that has been something I've leaned into over and over and over again. So it just underscores some of the things I think we learn about and what is it that we find attractive over time, and really kind of giving ourselves permission to look beyond, this is aging and this is all these things, but remind ourselves of times when things were really hard, yet incredible humanness was shown, vulnerability was shown. And it really leads me to something when you and I were in that tough time, and I think it was our third year of marriage, third year, what was it that helped you to get through? If you can look back at something, you say, whew, because we were on the edge.
Oh, yeah.
We were 1 foot out. And because we were protecting ourselves, we were hurt, we were all the things. What helped you to come back?
Well, I think it was actually working on myself. And to be totally cliche, it was like both of us recognizing that both of us were really used. I was like in the mothering position. I've always had a mothering disposition, and you've always been the knight in shining armor, the rescuer, the prince. I'm, the damsel in distress. And I was like, I don't need rescuing. That's not my love language. You didn't need mothering. That wasn't your love language. And it was like, ooh, I'm over mothering versus mothering myself, right? Like, I did the things I did. I took care of my body. I worked out. I ate healthy food, vegetarian or vegan. We thought that was like the thing to be in those days. And, but I wasn't really nourishing my nervous system. I would say I was more comfortable, like, go, put the focus on other people, because I didn't really I'm still, I'm uncomfortable even being on camera. Like, being seen is a lot for me. And so it's much easier for me to just want to take care of other people, because that's my love language, is just doing that. So once I realized, okay, that's not what he's asking for, and it's bringing up whatever your mommy issues were at the time, we all have them.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you out.
No.
That pushed that button even more, and I didn't recognize it. So I think it took recognizing it, which was a lot. I think what happened is we separated for a bit, and then we decided, I remember going down to the courthouse in Portland getting divorce papers. We were close. And we said, let's take our spring break together, and we will figure it out. Like, either we'll split after this, or we'll decide if we're going to make this work. And I think it was like we just had so many awakenings, and it had to be stepping outside of that major stress bubble that we were in, and recognizing like, okay, you don't need mothering, I don't need rescuing. Let's rediscover what we do need, and what we fell in love with.
Yeah. That is so helpful, and gosh, it gets me, right? Because we were that close, and it took literally a heroic effort, but not heroic like I gotta muster the strength and I gotta work hard on this. And I think that's a big part of what I'm learning more and more about 34 years into this experiment called us, where since that time, this last 30 years have been pretty amazing. We've had challenges like any couple will and families will, but our strength of marriage, our commitment to each other, our love for one another, our respect, my gosh, it gets better and better as we go. And what it really is illustrative, again, in relationship, and use that word, we recognized. And that is an interesting thing, because when we've been through a trauma, either before we got in a relationship or we went through one while we're in a relationship and it breached the trust, whatever might have happened in there, the way in which we house trauma and we build a wall. And that wall can be like nothing, no one's going to get in again, or I'm not going to love again because that wall is now up because I'm protecting myself. And what we know is that when we work through trauma, or we help ourselves to recognize that this is a person at one time I saw something in, or this is an experience that I know I can reevaluate from a different place. And I think when you and I took off that day and we packed up my Volkswagen bus, and which was kind of like that bus was sort of a metaphor for so much of our relationship. When we first started, we were camping and going to concerts and doing all the things. And it was a classic old Volkswagen hippie bus. But when we went on that spring break and we really, really gave ourselves permission to kind of drop all the things and meet each other.
And the blame, like dropping the blame.
And meet each other in a different place.
Yeah.
And what we're learning more and more about a relationship, and I'm sure all of you know how this works, that Rumi quote, beyond right doing and wrong doing, there's a field. I'll meet you there. And that field can be you can go there every day if you need to. You can go there as much as you need to, which is basically leaving the place of hard stuff and dark stuff and trauma stuff, and just deciding that person and you are worthy of going into a different place and having a different experience environmentally and hopefully from a psychological and deeply intimate place to have a different conversation. Because what we know about healing is that it's in the conversation that we get a chance to recognize that there's something here to work on or not. Because not all these things are always going to say, oh, it's going to work out now because we met over in the field that Rumi talked about or took off in the hippie bus and all of a sudden things were back to normal again. No. What it is that certain relationships take you to certain places, and then they can't take you any further unless you want to take yourself further. As you said, do some work on your mothering, me doing some work on my rescuing. We did this work which allowed us to move on to this next iteration, which got us back to the things that we loved about each other and allowed us to rebuild from there and build something completely new from there.
Yeah, and I think that spirituality played a really big part of that. We collectively kind of had a spiritual practice, and individually, like they were a little different for both of us, and then they really came together. But when I recognize, and I love how our talks around spirituality have really evolved into that idea of personal growth. And so when we really, for myself, I kind of backtracked back into like, well, what is spirituality for me, and how does that, what works best for me, what practices, what do I remember about myself that I loved, and bringing that person into the relationship. I feel that it helped not just the relationship, but it helped how I felt about myself.
Well, it's great, because that was my next question. When you're growing apart and you can sense that, oh my gosh, I think we're growing apart, our relationship isn't where it used to be, I feel like I'm falling out of love, all of those things. And if the investment and the desire to keep the relationship going is there, The research on how do you continue to grow together while you're growing as an individual. And that's not always easy to find someone, right? Who wants to do the work for themselves.
Yeah.
Because this isn't about like, I'm going to go ahead and do this inner spiritual work so you'll still love me or so you're still going to think I'm...
Well, it's not going to work if you're doing it for me and not for you.
Exactly.
And I think that was where our trouble lied early on. It was like, well, I'll do this for the other person.
Right.
And it was like, well, no, that's not... They want... It's how you going to find something that's going to help you grow yourself as a person. You're not doing it for another person.
So with that said, and I think this is really an important part of this, sweetheart, you work with a lot of women all over the country, actually all over North America. Do you find more and more that in where you are in your own life, spiritually, where you are physiologically, where you are hormonally, are there certain things that you could say, this is a key practice of my personal growth? Because I think, as you just described it, your spirituality is very integrated. It's not necessarily a universe or God thing, that's part of it, but there's also a lot of this is around understanding your physiology, your hormones, and this idea of self-care as a complete spiritual experience.
I think what you're talking about really is self-awareness, because like when I'm working with women of all ages, there's no one prescription fits all.
Sure.
Right? And so same for myself, like things that, and I'm writing a lot about this in the book that is basically done and ready for the next iteration.
Excited.
So I'm excited about that. And I've learned a lot in that writing too. I would say for myself, there's things that I thought were going to work that were not the answer for me. And so then I've had to really go into other practices that are more tried and true, I would say, like nervous system regulation and really learning how to do things that I know are going to help me age healthfully, and just practices that keep me more centered versus like, oh, this is what you do when you hit perimenopause. This is what you do when you hit menopause. And then, then what? And then what comes next? So I would say in terms of things that help in relationship with me and my self-regulating is self-awareness. And like, where am I at? And sharing with you where I'm at. Even though it like sometimes feels uncomfortable. I don't want to feel like I'm complaining or, oh, I'm a broken record. Oh, I'm still tired or whatever. But just say like, hey, so I noticed I'm feeling like this today. And do you have any suggestions? Or I tried this. This didn't work. And on the more positive end, oh my goodness, like all of a sudden I'm feeling more energized. I'm sleeping better. And so it's really working a lot of the practice and keeping track of my physiology, my sleep, my practices, better habits, better rituals. I think that if I notice you see me working on that and that makes you more attracted to me. I'm trying to think of the way to say it. Like, I think you admire that when you see me like working on all the things.
Well, gosh, it's almost like you knew my script, and which is really interesting. And as we kind of bring this full circle, what I wanted this experience to be for all of us today was hopeful. And I think what you just said is exactly what the data continually comes back to. We are drawn to a hopeful person. We're just drawn to that. And when we think about relationship and we think about what it is that we want to be for ourselves, we want to have hope. And self-awareness is that recognition where, I'm not doing the things that give me hope. I'm not keeping the practices that help me keep my light on. All those things. And that's for us. You do that for yourself, and you're not necessarily doing it for your partner.
Yeah.
But I think there's a level of, hey, because I'm in this relationship, I certainly want to be doing what I can to keep the light on, and that's a beautiful thing. And getting back to the core science of this is that what you just said, honey, is what everything is pointing to. While we go through iterations and changes, and as we age and go through all the things that relationships will go through, if you're long enough together, the thing that continually helps people to find their person in the same person is hope. And how do I see someone who I've always loved, care about, keep me feeling like, wow, I want to continually be around this, it's hope.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing that leadership has been shown time and time again. We want to be around people who give us hope. And wasn't it interesting how we often don't see that in our partnership? Am I living a life that's hopeful? Do I take care of myself in a way that's hopeful? Am I doing the daily things that someone would look at me and go, wow, that is inspiring and that's hopeful to watch the way that she's living or he's living their life?
Well, let me ask you this. Like, do you think that two parts. One is for people who have not found their person, who've been through painful relationships and maybe they're not hopeful. Like, what is the suggestion there? And then when someone's in relationship, like, what is the point at which it may not be worth fixing or is broken beyond repair, or you just like say it's okay to move on? I love myself enough to move on.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. Like, there's no such thing as absolutes. And in particular, if you're not in a relationship and maybe not even wanting a relationship, there's no downside to that, of course. Personal growth and spirituality and hope is for you.
Yeah.
And it happens to also be helpful in a relationship. But it also helps you be in relationship with yourself. The more that you have a goal for yourself, the more you have a vision for how you're going to achieve that goal, it's the more we stay interested. It's how we raise serotonin levels. Interesting. So we're going to raise serotonin. We're going to raise dopamine levels. We're going to raise oxytocin. So having this relationship with yourself is primary. So to your point, honey, this isn't necessarily about how does this work in intimacy with another person. It's how the intimacy with yourself works. And if you happen to be coupled up and being with someone, it only is going to enhance the whole chemistry and the potential to have something that really fulfills you, satisfies you, and makes you feel like, wow, this is really good for my mind, this is good for my body, and really, really good for my soul.
And last week when I did my surprise questions with you, you don't have to be in a relationship. To your point, we talked about the experience that we had at Red Rocks with the Sober Dance Party, the event. And I will say, there were a lot of single.
Yeah.
It's called Daybreaker, this event, by the way. There were a lot of people there on their own. And what happens is that when you put yourself in that situation as just a solo person showing up, you see how that collective effervescence and that commonality, that oneness, that common humanity will elevate those levels of dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin right there. And that is a way that you're taking care of yourself. And who knows, like, you may meet your people in that situation. So it's like not being afraid to put yourself out there. If whether or not you're looking for a romantic relationship or new friendships or just nourishing and nurturing your own self-love, like we always meet solo people when we're at shows like that, and church, dance parties, concerts, you name it. Red Rocks is a great place to meet solo people, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for all those years ago. Really, sweetheart, my goodness, like what my life wouldn't have been.
Both of ours.
Both of our lives wouldn't have been if we didn't find our way through getting out of the little dark bubble that we were really seemed to be invested in at that time. Popping that bubble, getting out so we can have the life we have today. So thank you. I love you.
Love you too.
So grateful we did that all those years ago. And thank you for joining us today. Hopefully this was uplifting to the degree it could be, but hopefully a healthy reminder of what can be. And the power of all the things that we shared today is the fact that if you really, really love the idea of growing yourself, that is the most important thing, to grow with another human. And ultimately, it's the way that we feel like we have something here on the planet that can really help us to really look back at our life and in our life and say, this is good. This is good.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being with us. And we look forward to next time.
We'll see you next week. Lots of love.
Lots of love.
Peace and blessings. Bye for now.